When it comes to growth, the brands that are winning today are the ones that truly know how to connect with their target audience. They tell a very engaging, compelling story, and they relate to the people that follow them on a human level. The brands that are losing traction today are the ones that spend all day, every day in sales mode, and they can't seem to get out of their own way because they're constantly trying to feed the sales machine, not realizing that if they produce content that's rooted in value, they're going to win anyway. So what's a good way to make your brand stand out? Podcast guest marketing is the answer. Being a value-driven, compelling guest on podcasts that are relevant to your mission and your message is a tremendous way to stand out in a very noisy and crowded marketplace. You want to position yourself as an authority and a resource for people to turn to, and telling your brand story on podcasts that fit your mission and speak to your values is a tremendous way to do it. Leaders across the globe are using the podcast platform to reach a new audience with every single interview they do, and by doing that, they provide value, they make an impact, and they bring people into their circle of influence. This allows them to nurture these new potential customers and transform them into loyal brand advocates. Today I'm going to share 8 ways podcast guest marketing can fuel your brand growth for years to come. My name is Jason Sircone, and I'm designing this channel to bring clarity to podcast guest marketing and podcast guest optimization. My goal is to help you be the most powerful, value-driven podcast guest that you can possibly be. If you'd like to support this channel, please subscribe so you're the first to know when new videos go live. Also, like this video so more viewers like yourself can find it in the algorithm. All right, let's get to it. Here are 8 ways that podcast guest marketing can fuel your brand growth for years to come. First, global amplification of your message. Imagine being in an auditorium or an arena filled with people that were there to listen to you and to get value from your message. Now take that arena full of people and multiply it by the globe. That is the opportunity that's available to you when you set up a very well-curated podcast guest marketing campaign. You go on shows that are relevant to your mission and your message, and you make an impact on that audience, and that content can go to a global audience and make an impact for a long, long time. Next, establish your know, like, and trust factor. It's very simple. People do business with who they know, who they like, and who they trust. How do they get to know, like, and trust you? First, they find value in what you have to say and what you have to offer. Once you provide that value in the very first correspondence, once they enter into your circle of influence, you have the potential to turn them into a loyal brand advocate by continuing to provide them value. So go on podcasts that are relevant to your space because you're going to connect with people that are looking for your message. That's going to allow you to provide the impact that will build your know, like, and trust factor, because at the end of the day, once they know you, once they like you, and once they trust you, they're going to be willing to do business with you. Every time you're a guest on a new podcast, you have an opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals that share your passions. This is going to allow you to meet new people every time you do a new interview, and if you make an impact on the audience, you're going to make an impact on those podcast hosts as well. If you make a positive impact, they're more likely to introduce you to other podcasters in the space, allowing your network to continue to grow. The possibilities of exponential growth that come from a positive podcast interview are simply immeasurable. Number 4, establish authority. Everyone wants to be the number one thought leader or resource in their space, right? Well, the podcast platform gives you a tremendous stage to prove yourself worthy of that distinction. When you go on podcasts, you have an opportunity to showcase your expertise and your skill set to the audience. And each episode that you go on, as I said before, gives you an opportunity to meet a new audience and do the very same thing. Each time you do that, your reputation continues to grow, and that is going to establish your authority in your space and transform you into the resource that everyone is looking for. Next, sell without selling. One of the biggest no-nos of going on podcasts is to go into sales mode. No podcast listener wants to listen to their favorite show and think they just listened to a half-hour infomercial or a non-stop sales pitch. That provides no value. Those listeners tune into that show because they know they are getting value from the conversations that are taking place. So that's the role you want to play. Provide value. Make an impact on that audience. When value is what you give, value is what you get in return. Because the natural instinct of anyone when they're provided value is to seek out that person for more value. So go on the show, do your job, do not sell. Make a valuable impact and welcome them into your circle by giving them a call to action that brings them over to your world so they can get more value from you. Next, podcast guest marketing helps you grow your circle of influence. As I said, when you provide value, you're bringing more people over to your world. Once you have them in your circle, it's your job to transform them from website visitors to leads to loyal brand advocates. And how do you do that? In case you're missing the theme, you provide value. Just like you do with any other person that enters into your lead funnel, make sure you're providing value that showcases why you are the person and you are the brand they need to be in business with. So the more podcast interviews you do, the bigger that circle of influence will become. Number 7, the ability to create evergreen content. What's great about most podcasts is that their content is evergreen. That means that you have an opportunity to impact somebody with your guest appearance 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road. Whenever that show gets discovered, as long as podcast producers aren't taking that content down, that means your presence and your value has an opportunity to get found years after it goes live. That's incredibly powerful, and it's a great way to keep your brand message going strong as new content comes in around it. And the last point I'm going to cover today is the SEO benefits that come from a powerful podcast guest marketing campaign. In my opinion, this is the unsung hero of podcast guest marketing. Every time you do an interview on a podcast and you provide a call to action that has a link pointing back to your website, whenever that link gets posted in the show notes or on the podcast's host site, that is a backlink that's pointing back to your website. So naturally, the more interviews you do, the more backlinks you're going to get. The more links you have coming from websites that have a high authority ranking, the more authority your website's going to get. Those web crawlers are going to say, this is a resource that people want to see. Obviously, there are a lot of backlinks pointing back at it. So the more interviews you do, the more backlinks you get, and the more SEO benefits you get from your campaign. Like I said, this is the unsung hero and one of my favorite elements of a strong podcast guest marketing campaign. So that's it for today. If you like what you saw, please click the little bell and the subscribe button so you're the first person to know when new videos go live. Also, click the like button on this video so more viewers like yourself can find it in the algorithm. I am on a mission to bring clarity to podcast guest marketing and help you understand how you can be an impactful, value-driven podcast guest. Next, check out this video where I'm talking about 3 things that you should never do as a podcast guest. This has been Jason Sircone. I'll see you next time.